What's going on, everybody? We are live. Welcome to episode 5.
Oh wow, live at 5.
It's live with 5. Yeah. You guys, we are so excited to be back with you guys, and we are all prayed up because technology has been trying to take this show down. So we believe that
Yeah.
this is going to be the best week we've had tech wise.
Yes.
Excited. And you guys, we got a lot of good stuff going down on the show today. You ready for it, Jariel?
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, you guys, we're going to be talking about some shows that we've been watching, some movies that are out, a show that's coming. We're going to get into an update on things that were going down in the Unshackled world. We talk microchurch, and then we got a great interview coming up with Bishop Timothy Wynn. I think you guys are going to love it. Stick around, and we'll be right back. Well, we see Auntie Tammy is there. Check in the chat. Let us know what's going on. Tammy, as always, we are excited to have you there. Do we have prizes? We should start having prizes.
Right?
I do have some books to give away.
Exactly. Yeah, right?
I do. I have shelves of like books that I think will be really helpful for most of our viewers and listeners. And then I have a bunch of books that I bought that the book's good. I don't know if everybody would really be into it. It's a book. You know what? We'll talk about it on the next episode because I don't want to go into it now.
Yes,
but it's a book.
What are you reading?
What's that?
On the What Are You Reading segment.
Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll get into that one for sure next time on the What Are You Reading? Because actually I got a couple books that I'd like to talk about. But it's an entrepreneur who I think he's rough around the edges. So he might not be everybody's cup of tea. But anyways, I'm pumped about the show today. How you been, Jariel? How's everything? How's life?
Everything's been good. I started a new job, so things are a little different, but I still love doing this show. So here I am, and yeah, God is good. Still good.
Amen. Yes, He is. And one of the things I always say when people are asking me that general question, I start with, my family's healthy and we're employed. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like so many things. Tammy, no, we're not giving away a car. You're too funny. We love that. Over here, like, yeah, I'm thinking about a car. No,
we will pray for a car.
Yeah, I'm about to say, if I give you a car, it's because the Lord gifted me the car and the empowerment and discernment to know that He's telling me to give it to you.
Yes.
I'm not gonna put it past Him, but
yes.
Well, you guys, we're gonna get into it. We got a lot of stuff we want to chat about today. So up first, we're gonna do our "What Are You Watching?" segment.
Yes.
One of our favorite segments where we kind of get into some of the shows and movies that we've been enjoying, and we chat about them, whether that we love them or not so much, and maybe it might be something that you might want to watch or something you might want to make sure to avoid.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about Turning Red today. Like this, that just came into my mind as soon as I said.
There's enough discord going on about.
Yeah, that's like a whole thing. Oh, man. We should have planned to talk about the whole Disney thing. Actually, let's do this real quick. This is completely impromptu, you guys. But I feel like we should talk about it. So Disney Plus, as of the 16th, so that's like 3 days ago, Wednesday, they officially brought over, to the excitement of many Marvel fans, all of the MCU movies or shows that were all on Netflix. So Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Defenders, and Punisher. So it's a whole gang of
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, right?
Oh yeah, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And so now they in doing that was a big shift for them brand wise. Now, this was a conversation that I think a lot of people knew was coming ever since they purchased Fox, which brought in other things that were not really on brand for Disney. But when they started Disney Plus, it was like a safe haven, of sorts for all things Disney, which most parents would feel comfortable letting their kids go and just enjoy. But now bringing those in, it was like, and now here comes some rated R and more. Like Jessica Jones, some
Oh,
of those episodes,
yeah,
that's
really
like
rated R.
NC-17. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother level. So
Yeah.
now that's in Disney Plus. And I was having a conversation with my co-host of the Good Dad Bad Dad podcast. Actually, our last episode, which you can find now at gooddadbaddadpod.com or freedomstorymedia.com, we talked about always plugging. We talked about the that this whole conversation before they brought it in. We didn't know what it was going to look like, but now that I saw it, I like that they. So I knew that they were going to create parental controls,
Yeah.
so that you would have to like kind of choose who has what permissions. But one of the things we talked about on the podcast was, is this going to be a thing where your kid can just decide to go into your profile and now they're in
Uh,
the dark world
yeah.
of those Disney things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like that they actually did a pin where you could lock down your profile.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you can now, as a parent, choose what rating level of access each profile has, and then
Okay.
there's a parental pin that allows them, that makes it where they can't get in there and see your stuff.
Well, I'm glad you told me so I can get on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know what? I believe that's how it works. I put in the pin. I didn't actually try it as like my son going in.
Okay.
I hope it's not just a pin that controls like what profile has what access.
Yeah.
If it still means at any time my son could just go into my profile,
Yeah.
Disney, you failed. We'll see. We might have to report back on that next time.
Yes, yes.
But what were your thoughts when you heard about that or saw that it was happening? Did you have any thoughts? Did you hear stuff?
I heard like, a lot of, discourse about, yeah, they shouldn't be bringing these things over. It's going to be hard for parents. So, same things you all were discussing on the podcast. And I'm like, yeah, that is going to be more, we're just going to have to be more active and, controlling. It's really up to you at this point, and that's honestly how it should be. We
And
are
you
the
know what?
parents.
In the middle of our conversation on the podcast, it was hitting me like how, and I hate to always say this, but how like lazy American, even my brain has gotten in
Mhm.
regards to a lot of things, because that was not my first thought.
Yeah.
It took us going through the debate before being like, oh, so now it's just meaning you have to like actively parent your kids and
Yeah.
watching.
Like, oh, okay.
I can't just say press play and go. Like I have to actively like know what
Yeah.
their little eyes are watching.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's an important thing. And I think the man, now I'm having another level of revelation here. I think that is actually some of the great benefit that comes out of a lot of the shifts that we even see in culture,
Mhm.
because when culture feels more and more like um something that jives with the way that you want to do life,
Yeah.
it's easy to take your hands off the wheel and just be like,
Exactly.
oh, we're cool. Like
Yeah.
if you're coasting along, in this gentle river, like you're not like clutching your hands on the oars and worrying about the direction, and
Yeah.
you're still going along the stream though. But like if you're in a rapids, like you are actively like, and we got to understand, no matter how comfortable the river looks, like spiritually speaking, it's always been the rapids,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. Yes.
And we sometimes just think, this is we're this is chill, like
Yeah.
no,
Exactly. Yeah.
always been the rapids.
Yeah.
Always need to be on guard, and like
Yes.
this is just reminding us, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I need to get back at my position in the gate, and make sure
Exactly.
that, I'm aware of what's going on with my kids.
And it's so easy not to, especially with like streaming services. Like you put that bad boy on, it just keeps going and going.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't plan to have this conversation at all, but I'm like, man, that really just blessed me. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I know. I'm like, I gotta go set up these for parental control. Netflix has been running wild over here.
right, right. I mean, and then YouTube. Don't get me started on
Oh
YouTube.
gosh, because
That's
you can end up someplace totally crazy just off
you
an
yourself,
innocent
like
search. Yeah, yeah,
not just your kids. You yourself can be like, wait,
yeah.
what? How did I get here?
How did I get here?
Okay, well, there's your bonus content for the day. Like we had not planned that. What I
Yeah.
was going to talk about, and we'll get there now, was a movie that I just recently saw. The only reason I actually saw this is called Dog. The only reason I actually saw it was because I went to see the Batman. Wait, have we talked about the
No, we did
Batman?
not.
How have we not talked about the Batman, but we talking about Dog? Like,
I did. I think we had like a brief discussion, not about like seeing it, but how we were just like, it's it's gonna be a DC film, but it's not a DC film.
yeah.
We didn't know what to expect. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, maybe that's why. Okay, so we'll talk about it after you see it. It's
Okay.
actually really good.
It is? Okay. Well, you know I
Actually,
love Robert
and you
Pattinson.
know me in DC. You know me in DC. I'm ready to jump on DC and like kick
Yeah.
it to the ground. I think it's the only DC movie I liked better was Dark Knight.
Oh, okay.
It's actually really good, so I recommend it. But we're not talking about that right now. So I went to see that, paid for it with Fandango. Fandango gave me some like a $5 credit. So I was
Okay.
like,
Oh,
oh well, let me see what I can use this on.
yeah.
And I remember seeing the trailer for Dog. So Dog, if you can show that clip real quick, Dog is about the character. I don't even know his name in the character now. I can't remember. But Channing Tatum's character, he is an army ranger, and he has a lot of the same issues that many do that have gone through serving in multiple tours, where
Yeah.
post-traumatic stress disorder and all that stuff. But he's a man's man, and he's in no way like engaging with that part of his stress.
Yeah.
And we don't even know that that's really at the heart of the film. But the basic premise of it is he is trying to get back into serving after some medical issues, and he's having difficulty. In order to prove himself, he is going to take this dog that's like had its own version of PTSD, and is going to it needs to be at the funeral of his former handler. His former handler died tragically after the war, and so no one wants to take this dog. And so in order to prove that he can get back in the game, he agrees to drive this dog across the country to show up to this funeral. And so it's all about the journey, physically, of making it across country with this wild dog and trying to keep him out of trouble. And there's some fun escapades and some crazy stuff that happens. But more than that, there's a journey of you see this guy working through his stuff.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty good. I thought they rushed the ending. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I thought they rushed the ending. I felt like they could have actually added another 15 minutes on it to kind of walk you a little bit more through it. Whereas they could have just borrowed that from the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought the Batman could have been about 15-20 minutes short. So they worked together, they would have nailed their time. But I thought it was good. So if you're okay, it sounds like a movie you should go with your kids.
Okay. Okay.
Don't be fooled into that, because there's a couple scenes where there were actually kids behind me in this theater because they thought, oh, family movie with the dog.
There's a dog.
There's a couple scenes that are not so ready for kids. Maybe like teens, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's a couple like sexual things, and there's definitely like language and stuff. So but I think still for dog lovers and for veterans, you'll love it. And for people that might want a heartwarming, story, maybe check it out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So that's Dog. What have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching this movie called The Adam Project.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And you've seen it too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's it's,
Oh,
it's actually pretty good. I liked it. Yeah.
you
What did
know,
you think?
I loved it because I love Ryan Reynolds because he's like funny in a way that is just so unique to me. I've always loved Ryan Reynolds. And then like him in this dramatic character, it's like a comedy slash drama. I really liked it. Like he's from the future and he's trying to get back to 2018, but he accidentally goes into
I don't.
2022, I think, and he's 12 years old and he meets up with his 12-year-old self, and his 12-year-old self is equally funny. I don't know that little actor's name, but he was hilarious.
I think he's got a future. He was good.
Yes. And then it had Jennifer Garner in it. And I love all things Jennifer Garner.
I did not know that.
Oh my gosh. My dog's name is Stella Sydney Bristow. It's named after Jennifer Garner's character on Alias, Sydney Bristow.
Really? Hey, you guys, we are learning stuff right now. I had no idea that you were that kind of Jennifer Gardner
Oh my
fan.
gosh, I
Wow.
was obsessed with Jennifer Gardner. And then it had Mark Ruffalo in it. So it just and Zoe Saldana. There were so many people in this movie. And then it was just how the story was very unique to me. I don't feel like I've seen anything like it ever before. And it made me I don't cry easily and my eyelids were moist.
Oh,
I was like, I love this movie.
Dario was crying.
I know.
And I'm not going to repeat the M word for some of you guys who are sensitive to it, but her eyes were that word.
I used to be sensitive to that word. I just forced myself to start saying it. I'm like, it's a perfectly normal word.
I laughed at it when it was one of the words on Wordle. I don't know. Do you play that game? That
I
word game?
refuse to get into it because everyone's into it.
Yeah,
So
I
give
figured,
me in a year, I'll be doing it.
there's only two. I've only found two sorts of reactions when I talk about Wordle.
Yeah.
People who play it and love it, or
Yeah.
people who refuse to because everyone plays it.
I refuse. It's the Candy Crush of this year.
I enjoy it. I'm 52 days strong on it. Right
Oh
now.
wow.
52 days in a row, and I've been winning, and I'm enjoying it. So, one thing that I thought was interesting in regards to the Adam Project was, as I was looking at the cast, I was like, dang, like the majority of this cast is all from Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, so Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, Mark Ruffalo, Hulk,
Mhm.
Zoe Saldana, Gamora, and then don't forget Jennifer Gardner was Elektra. So like
Yes.
before the actual MCU, but from the Daredevil realm that we don't talk about.
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh-oh, she coming after your Stella.
Stella.
So I don't know if that's a reference to something specific, or is she trying to say Stella looks like a dog, or
No, Stella is my dog.
oh, your dog. Duh. Hello. When she said Stella Wolf Wolf, I was thinking she was talking about the character.
Oh.
You said you named your dog Stella.
No.
That makes sense. Yeah, y'all can't take me nowhere. I don't make no sense. Yeah, but I enjoyed the film as well. I can't really disagree with anything that you said there. I thought it was fun. We all watched it as a family, and there's not many that we can sit down and watch. Like, it's really hard to find something specifically for Layla that we also like. So,
yeah, and I felt like there wasn't there's violence, but it wasn't like over the top, and there was nothing really sexual in it at all. Yeah. It was just a really good movie. I enjoyed every minute of it.
I did too. I think it might even be #1 in the country on Netflix right now.
Oh, it deserves that.
There you go.
If you can make me cry, then
that does it for you, huh?
Yes.
And then last but not least, we have The Expanse. Guys, The Expanse is a show that I'd heard about for a while that I just never really decided to check out much longer than so when I heard about it maybe 2 years ago, I want to say. I started watching the first episode. I had no idea what was going on, and I stopped it before I finished the episode. Now, I should have followed my rule. Ever since The Walking Dead, and the lessons that I learned with that one, because I had heard so many people talking about The Walking Dead, and I was just never into the zombie thing or anything like that. I remember trying one episode of The Walking Dead and being like, "Nah, this is not hitting it for me."
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with Pastor Carter, who loved The Walking Dead, and he was like, "You should give it another shot." So I gave it another shot, and this time I made it. I decided to like just push through a few episodes.
Yeah.
Made it to episode 3, and by episode 3, I was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good."
Yeah.
So in that moment, I developed a rule that I don't always apply, but I should. I call it the 3 episode rule.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a show 3 episodes because sometimes even some of the better shows like The Walking Dead, it
Mhm.
takes a few episodes to really hook you.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll quit too early. So The Expanse was an example of one of those that apparently I quit too early on because
Okay.
I'd started it before I heard anybody talking about it. And then one of my colleagues was telling me about it, and I decided to give it another shot, and I was hooked, and I started even like binging it and stuff. So the idea behind the show is you've got it's definitely in the future. I don't even recall what year it's supposed to be, but it's years in the future. And now beyond just Earth, you have a settlement on Mars. It's even more than a settlement. Think of it like Earth Part Two, but in Mars.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you've also got people that live and have been born and only have lived in space itself, where they're
Oh.
like in space stations and stuff like that and other rocks. So like they've explored a lot. So it's kind of like Star Trek meets Star Wars in that
Hmm.
realm. But then I think it's also like a Sons of Anarchy or a Game of Thrones with all of the crazy political Earth versus Mars versus the belt. They call those people that live in space. They're called belters.
Oh.
So there's um, a I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a um, mysterious element that is causing great dissension amongst all of them, possibly going to start a war. And the question is, are they going to figure out if it's one of them that's doing it? Because they all think it's the other person that's causing this issue.
Yeah.
And it's like, do they continue to kill each other, or do they learn that they need to come together? Or, but there's so much more than that, and it's really another one of those great examples of a solid character development. And
Yeah.
it's at the core of it is this group it's a diverse group that has people from Earth, people from the belt, people from Mars that end up on this ship together. And it's like the story of this ship and their crew
Hmm.
as they journey throughout this. And I just finished it like what last week. So I recommend it if you're into sci-fi, at least a little bit. You got to be a little bit into
I
sci-fi,
love sci-fi.
yeah, or you're not going to dig it. But I think even if you're not like a huge sci-fi fan, but you enjoy like those, types of dramas, like I said, like a Sons of Anarchy or a Game of Thrones or even House of Cards, where you've got all these crazy like back and forth stuff like that. It's interesting. Someone told me Yellowstone is a show like that. I haven't really gotten into it.
Yeah. Me
But
either.
but I think the difference there is like I'm not really into the country.
Me
You know what
either.
I mean? Like so like it's like that, but in sci-fi world. So at least I'm
Mhm.
into sci-fi, so that made me more interested. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to give Yellowstone a try, and maybe we'll have a conversation about that in a later episode. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's The Expanse. I recommend. It's on Amazon Prime if you have Amazon Prime. So I think you might dig that.
Sweet.
Now, something that we both have been excited to talk about. I've been waiting for this.
Yes.
Is Obi-Wan. Y'all, the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer came out, and I lost my mind. Um, I was so pumped. I had a friend, actually the co-host of the Good Dad Bad Dad podcast. He texted me when they created a Twitter account for the show, and all it said was "Hello there," and it was
Oh.
like, oh, and we both knew they're about to drop the trailer. They're gonna drop the
Yeah.
trailer.
Yeah.
So they did, and it was awesome. So I figure, you know what? Let's just watch the trailer real quick,
Yes.
and then we can talk about it quickly. Let's see if I can get that to jump on in here. There we go.
The fight is done. We lost. Stay hidden.
I know.
The key to hunting Jedi is patience. Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail. The Jedi Code is like an itch. He cannot help it. Where is he?
That is not too long, but feels like it's gonna be a mile away.
Yeah, right.
So, what were your first thoughts when you saw that?
I was just like, oh. But it just feels very it's give me all the nostalgic feels. Like it feels just very authentic Star Wars. Yeah.
That actually is one thing that we've been missing.
Yeah.
That is as great as The Mandalorian was.
Mhm.
It felt different. It
Mhm.
felt very different than your normal Star Wars because
Yeah.
Jedi weren't centered. Like it's now you're centering another like non-force,
Yeah.
kind of, people. And what I didn't realize until seeing this trailer is how much I miss lightsaber action.
That was my second thing. I was like, there was so much lightsaber action. Like, yes, let's get back to that.
Let's go, right? Like, there's nothing more iconically Star Wars than the
Yeah.
lightsabers. So that definitely got me all pumped and excited. And the Inquisitors, they're like hunting down
Yeah.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Maybe they got Uncle Owen. Like we saw baby Luke or like young Luke there. Like,
and I love that they're bringing back Ewan McGregor. Like, Disney is just doing it.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, that's like a perfect timing where like this film is like set, in between the prequels and episode 4.
Mhm.
And so it's now, I don't know, probably 20 years since the prequels.
Yeah.
So he naturally looks aged. To the point
Exactly.
where, he's been now seeing this young Luke and watching him. And I love that stay hidden bit, where he's like trying to keep him away from, Vader or opposite of that. So,
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it. I was actually just talking with Pastor Carter, who's a huge Star Wars fan. I was literally talking to him today, and we talked about the show, and I was letting him know like my excitement level is dangerously high because there's like literally only room for me to be disappointed.
I know. Literally every trailer we've discussed probably this season, I'm like, I have my expectation levels at a 10. I'm like, man, I hope like all these things are so great.
And that's one of the things I think that worked really well for me with the Batman, that my expectations were low.
Okay.
And then it was like, boom, I was like, oh, all right. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 hours worth it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready for that.
Yes.
Let us know in the comments, you guys, if you're excited about Obi-Wan. I don't know, Tammy, if you're a Star Wars gal or not. I know you're not into Marvel, so I'm guessing Star Wars might not be your cup of tea either. But appreciate you being a part of the show, anyways.
Yes.
All right, so man, we've gone in, and we're gonna quickly do one more bit before we get to our main event, which is
Yes.
the interview with Pastor or Bishop or however you want to call him, Timothy Wynn. I'll tell you more about him. But I was able to go to the microchurch conference down in Gainesville, Florida, earlier this year, which I found out it's the first conference. They've never done one of these before, which I thought that was interesting, and I think it's actually really unique in that the people that you're bringing together now in a large room are all used to their small context, like rooms and basements or whatever it is. So like now we're kind of almost like mega churching for this conference where we're talking about micro. And it was really such an amazing experience, to even be invited, not only to be a part of it, but like to get to be on the main stage. And I think I even took it for granted, the honor that it was, because I was sitting at a table, and it was cool. We were in tables as opposed to being in rows like you would at an auditorium.
Yeah.
So like there was a sense of community that was even building at our table. So like I have contacts now with all the people that I sat at this table with for those 3 or 4 days that
cool.
we were sharing about ministry and stuff. But I tried to keep it really quiet that I was going to be on stage, because I just didn't want to have conversations about it, like call it false humility or what. I just didn't want to like be talking about that. So it was interesting. One of the guys at our table was actually speaking at a workshop. He had a workshop at the conference, and the cool thing was that his workshop, which was all about, it was called the Invisible Class, and was all about ministering to the homeless, the poor, the people that people just walk past, and that's my heart. So I was like, yes, let's go do that. In the workshop, which was amazing. It was so dynamic. It was funny and challenging, and he had so many great things that I took away from there. He said, and next year, you guys, I'm going to be up on the main stage. Like I'm praying that into, and I'm sitting there like, how did I get on the stage? Like, I'm like, this guy, is he sharing in his workshop? He has, not only a nonprofit that he's leading at a high level, but like he's like getting huge grants from the city. He's worked in Atlanta to build out these like he runs like these housing places for people that need like places to stay. Like he's doing it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm in my basement. Like, I connected with people doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sitting here like, how is, so it's just one of those things where like, it was reminding me, and I think maybe this is the main idea of me even sharing, is that a lot of times, the Lord, he puts us in places where we have not earned the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His grace goes before us in so many ways that we don't even recognize all the time.
Exactly.
We don't even realize it. And we, in some situations, will even be inappropriately confused into thinking we have earned it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I was just in the blessed position enough to realize that I was way beyond where I should be. Like, because I think had this happened 5 years from now, I might think I've put in my time, I've worked my way here.
Yeah.
Versus look at God. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there was no way for you to even put yourself in the position to say that.
No, there's no way. There was
Yeah.
no way, you know. And so I was just so blessed by that. And then I got to share while on the stage. I got to share um, a couple of testimonies. One of which, actually, they both centered around this understanding of the mentally ill and
Yeah.
um, the work that I believe the church and specifically me is being sent to be about, which is
Mhm.
reaching those who are invisible oftentimes,
Yeah.
who are on the margins of life, who are rejected in so many different ways, and
Mhm.
finding with God's help and His power ways to speak life and truth into them and welcome them back in the way that Jesus leaves the 99 and goes after the one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
almost every conversation, the mentally ill are the one, you know?
Exactly. And I think you and I were talking, like it's just been more evident lately, like they have been left behind and it's
Yeah.
just really sad.
Yeah, and it's like, what do we do? How do we do that? And
Mhm.
that's the thing that I really currently feel ill-equipped for,
Yeah.
but I feel called to. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I'm like, okay, now I need to like be on this journey with the Lord of learning how that works and what do we have to do and hopefully even going and learning in a way so that I can then share that with the church at large and like
Yeah.
here because I feel like that's part of the journey that I've been on for
Mhm.
like the past 3 years is like the Lord is sending me into uncharted territory in
Yeah.
ministry so that I can then come back and say, okay, hey y'all, I went and checked it out. Yeah, there's giants there,
Yeah.
but we can overcome, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So I feel like that's the next leg of this journey. And interesting enough, and I think it's a great segue into our interview. Um the man of God I get to introduce you guys with or to today, Timothy Wynn.
Mhm.
Part of what he's about these days is trying to find a way to help people that maybe even before they get into the depths of like some of the mental issues that
Yeah.
cause people to be ostracized and stigmatized, but dealing with trauma because that's if we're just being honest, like when we're dealing with the populations like the mentally ill, it's basically as a result of traumatic life experiences to some degree or another. And
Mhm.
if it's not a one-to-one correlation, you can almost always see some sort of trauma in
Yeah.
the past of those
Yeah.
who are suffering from mental illness. So one of the things that he's about, and that's one of the conversations we're going to get into. I don't think we're going to have time to hear much about that in today's portion of the interview.
Mhm.
If you listen to the entirety, and if you pay attention as we continue on in our journey for days to come, you're going to hear more and more about his desire to develop trauma centers in different places throughout. And I'm currently praying about what that's going to look like for us. Is there someone maybe in our ministry that might want to help spearhead that? And yeah, we'll see. So I'm excited to now introduce you guys to Bishop Timothy Wynn. I call him Bishop because he's been a part of planting a ton of churches. And today we don't even get into that as much as we do focus on his freedom story. And he's got a good one. And we really even get into more of the higher level understandings of freedom and what that really means. So having said that, let's jump into the interview, shall we?
Mm.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Freedom Stories podcast. We are in season 2 and I am so excited with today's episode. If you've never been with us before, this podcast, we take time to sit down with different folks who are walking with Jesus and find out a number of questions, but really ultimately we want to get after their freedom story. And today I'm so excited to let you guys into the story of my brother Timothy Wynn. I'm sorry, Bishop Timothy Wynn. He's a dynamic man of God, somebody I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past few years. And I'm just excited that you guys are going to get to know him a little bit here. So I want to say hello to everybody, Bishop.
Hey, everybody. It is a exciting time to be alive, but I'm even more excited right now in this moment to be here with you and just see how God unfolds these next couple of minutes for us. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you, bro. And I know I really want to get into the deep stuff. So let's just dive in. I don't want to. We don't need to do too much small talk. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
let's let's get into it, brother. Tell us, in your own words, what would be your freedom story? You're walking towards freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And there's so many different directions that I could go with that because I feel like my particular freedom story is still being told or unfolding, if you will. I think freedom, uh, of course, whom the sun sets free is free indeed, right? But I think that that's something that's progressive, uh, and not something that just comes to us like in a miraculous nanosecond or
Right.
a moment. So, but I will say that my journey of freedom um, has been uh, one through many different obstacles. One being a son uh, that was sexually abused, being coming through a single parent home, then escaping the streets and sex, violence, drugs, and all kinds of things that uh, easily beset so many brothers, especially that come from where I come from. You know,
Whereabouts was that?
Yonkers, New York. I normally claim New York City as a whole because I have bounced around New York City quite a bit, but Yonkers, I think I would claim Yonkers as being where I'm from. That's where I did a lot of my late elementary, middle school, high school. So those were some real formative years for me. And yeah, it was I mean, just surviving Yonkers, New York alone is a freedom story. I mean, breaking through some of the things that many of my friends didn't survive. I mean, I've had friends that have been shot point blank, standing right next to me, and by the grace of God, I made it out for
Yeah.
whatever reason. You know, um, not that I know, and that is in that I'm even trying to understand it, but I do understand that I made it out, and that making it out was for ultimately a greater purpose. I believe, at least, but in any event, yeah. So freedom for me has been that, surviving that, and then surviving adulthood, which is um, filled with its own challenges, and you know um, a lot of things have challenged me in my adulthood. Um, some things that we all deal with, but maybe some a little bit more than others. Um, and these challenges come nonstop, 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 nonstop. But my freedom story really is one of finding Jesus because you know um, he is the beginning and the end, right? The author and the finisher, right? So everything that's happening in my life on this journey to freedom is particularly just in between. It's the chapters in between. But I know the end of the story, and uh, Jesus came into my life at a very, very critical point in my life. In fact, there's a scripture that says that um, at the appointed time, God saw fit. I'm using my own words to step in and save us. And I always look at that scripture, uh, and I'm flawed. I'm floored at this reality that you know. it was at the appointed time. At the time that I gave my life to Jesus, it was no other time. It was the appointed time, because if it wasn't the appointed time, then maybe I wouldn't be saved, or maybe I wouldn't be alive, because really and truly it was that much of a dark place, dark season of my life. And I could have easily, took my own life in that season. But God saw fit to introduce me to Jesus through a friend that is still a great friend today. And I don't know that he was so much a friend back then. He was more so a coworker, but he became a great friend. And I really needed some breakthrough in my life. I mean, some direction. I needed to make sense out of all the chaos, and Jesus was the only thing, the only one, the only way that I really found that helped me to get at least to a place where I could talk about being free.
Amen. Where freedom could even be in the conversation.
In a conversation, right?
If you don't mind, not that you need to go into deep detail, what is a little bit of that chaos that you were dealing with? Because I know that there's so much that we could go into that maybe we don't really have a time or space or the appropriate place for. But I know some of that may be places where people may be able to connect and say, "Oh, yeah, me too. I was there too."
Yeah. So some of the chaos.
I mean, I know you kind of touched on it overarching, but like in that moment, like in the season right before, like was there a specific darkness that you were like, I don't know, like that place where you were close to ending it? For me, real quick,
Yeah.
for me, like when I gave my life to the Lord, I was at the place where like I felt like, dang, there's literally no way out of this. But like it was like I saw there's nothing else left. I'd made all my mistakes that led me to that place, and I was like, okay, you know what? Before I do something real crazy, like what else is there? And then the Lord stepped in. So I don't know what version of that was there.
Yeah. So a lot of the chaos for me was self-inflicted, I guess. Right before I gave my life to the Lord, but some of those things were, when you come up in a dynamic or dysfunctional family, as I did, it's not just about surviving it. It's not just about okay, you live through it, but it's also about being able to continuously live through the manifestations that come later on in life. And so what I mean by that is this. I grew up in a very chaotic home. Domestic violence, drugs, abuse on all different kinds of levels. And that creates this environment that's conducive for chaos to thrive in. So when I got older and later on in life, and even to this day, I have this natural bend for creating chaotic environments.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what's normal to me. So when everything seems like chaotic to you or to someone else, it's just, no, this is how I thrive. This is where I live. And so leading up to when I gave my life to the Lord, I just was recreating chaos through my own drug addiction that I had at the time, through my own ignorance or rebellion and fear. I was self-soothing. I was partying a lot, drinking a lot, and really just finding ways to self-soothe. And even at the time, I remember my life was just so dark. It was, I was 20 something. Yeah, 20 something when I gave my life to the Lord. And, after, 20 something, but after surviving my first suicide attempt was at 18 or 17. So from 17, I got to imagine maybe early teens, 13, 14 years old. I completely hated life. But, all the chaos that was before me created this real dark space within me that basically just screamed, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be a part of this world, because this world is screwed up, man. This world is really, really messed up. And so that just led to more chaos after more chaos after more chaos. The very thing that you say you don't want is the thing that you get. It almost reminds me of, Paul said something very similar, like the things I don't want to do, I do. You know what I mean? It's almost like the damsel in distress. What you really want, you create the opposite. And so that was true for me, and I just created a lot of chaos through my partying, through my drugging and bugging, through my ventures with women, and I had to learn that it was all just me trying to put band-aids on some deep wounds. See the freedom the freedom is not from the devices. The freedom is not from, if you hear me, if you walk with me, it's not from the women, it's not from the drugs, it's not from the behavior, if you will. The freedom is actually from the core, from the root of those things, which is abandonment. You know what I mean?
Those deeper wounds,
yeah. Right? That can only be healed or filled by God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And without God, without Jesus, right? You will never ever have those wounds filled or healed, and therefore you will never ever really find freedom, right? That's what true freedom is, to say, look, I've been abandoned by my dad, I've been abandoned by my mom, and those are the two most important relationships to me, or to any individual, the parent to child, two most important relationships in the world, in the life of any human being. So when you alter, or you abandon that child is going to have issues for the rest of its life in some fashion or form with abandonment, if they don't come into this knowledge of Jesus Christ, and that he's the one who can stand in the gap of that, or fill that void, right? It's that so yeah, it's he is the good father, right? He transcends everything that we can imagine, or whether we can, or whatever we could think, right? And he steps in and he says, look, I'm gonna right this wrong. The thing that you lack the most, I'm gonna step in. If it's a father, I'm gonna be your father. If it's a mother, I'm gonna be your mother. And outside of God, right? Outside of God, how could I personally ever even be sitting here talking to you at this moment, right? Because there's a lot of things that have bound me up. There's a lot of things, and I got a lot of good reasons why I should still be bound. Right. But what God has offered me through his son Jesus is freedom, and I'm going to continue to seek freedom out. I know it's not a one-off or a one particular event where you just get free. Yeah, the day you give your life to Jesus, yeah, you just freed yourself legally. You know what I mean?
I totally get what you're saying. I look at it as a spectrum, that we're
Right.
all somewhere on this spectrum between total enslavement and total freedom. And the total freedom, I don't believe we ever truly attain until we're in heaven, right?
Right.
Like we're somewhere on this progressive journey towards more and more freedom.
That's
So
right.
Paul even says, like, don't let yourselves be yoked again by
Right.
or burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So like he
Right.
understands, yeah, you were set free, but
Right.
you still experience more and more bondage.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. He definitely, he reminds them. I mean, you think about, and you know, from church to church in the letter, in the epistles, he's reminding them, like, hey, remember what you've been set free from, what you've been delivered from, and continue to move that way. Don't go that way. You know what I mean? That's the way you came from. This is the way you're going. You know what I mean? Like, you know, keep going in that direction. And
As I watch this, you can recognize.
yeah, man. So freedom is it's progressive, right? It certainly has to be progressive, but you know,
So I'm sorry, I made you go back, but you were early sharing on the moment when your coworker, who then became friend, was introducing you to the Lord. Walk us through maybe a little bit of that interaction, and your response, and then maybe what life began to look like in opposition to the chaos thereafter.
Yeah. So the particular way that it went was I was sick, and I was sick from self-inflicted wounds. I was doing drugs, and I was getting over that, and had some health issues regarding that, but I still had to go to work, and my car had got impounded. When you talk about being set up by God, right? My car got impounded, and I had no money to get it out, but I also had rent to pay. So it wasn't just about, all right, let them keep the car. It was about, hey, no, if I let them keep the car, how am I going to get to work? Because, you know, I need to pay this rent. And the only solution was a coworker of mine who happened to hear me telling, you know, my manager at the place we were working what the deal was. I don't have a car, and I got to, you know, figure this out. And he kind of interjected and just said, hey, I'll give you a ride. I live right down the street from you. And I'll pick you up, and I'll bring you, you know, and I'll drop you off. And I was like, okay, cool. That works. And every day I got into this man's car, there was some Christian gospel Jesus music playing, you know, and and I remember getting in this man's car, and I would just say, oh Lord, you know, I wouldn't, I probably didn't say oh Lord, but
Right.
but you get it. You know, and then this one day where I get out the hospital, because I already missed 2 or 3 days of work, and I was in the hospital, and they wanted to keep me even more. And I signed myself out because I'm like, no, I got to go to work. I got to get this money, man, so we can survive. I had a kid, you know, and I signed myself out. I go home, I go to sleep, I wake up, he's downstairs waiting for me. I'm crawling out the bed in so much pain and so much agony, and you know, that I'm literally just bawling because every movement is hurting me. but I fight my way down the stairs into his car. I open the door and I kind of fall into his car, and I'm trying to hold back these tears because he's a grown man, I'm a grown man, and we don't want none of that going on. But nonetheless, he looked over at me, and the only thing that I could say to him is brother, I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. That was the cry that came out of my mouth to him. And he said to me, he said, brother, you need Jesus.
Come on.
And the irony of that is that through all the gospel Christian music that he was playing leading up to that, he never really pushed Jesus on me. He never said that to me, you need Jesus. That was just his music. And, and I find that very interesting, especially in as it relates to leading other people to the Lord and introducing Jesus to people. God knows that the appointed time he'll make a way, like he did that day in the car, where my friend said, you need Jesus. And I said, hey, if Jesus can take away all of this pain, all of this agony that I'm in, then give me Jesus. And I took Jesus that day. That night I went to a church that he actually led me to. And from there, I gave my life to the Lord, and life immediately after that was still chaotic.
Sure.
It was still chaotic. Don't get me wrong. In fact, it might have gotten worse. But there was something different about me in the chaos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had a peace about myself, and I was able to navigate the chaos, but still without really getting really sucked into it, fully. It was supernatural. It was almost like something or someone was protecting me from going down these roads that I've traveled down many and many of times, like relapsing or going back to using drugs that was hurting me. Like, this drug thing is hurting you physically, it's hurting your health, but addiction is addiction. You still go back to it. But now I was at this place where it was right there in front of my face, and I was just like, nah, I don't want it. And it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't one of those Christian things where they say, okay, you're Christian, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. I was ignorant to all that.
Right.
I didn't
know all the things to do.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. All I know is that the desire went away from me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I was able to walk away from, drugs, cold turkey, man. Some people's story, is different, and I get that, but I used drugs in a very major way for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years. And after 2 or 3 years, man, I met the Lord, and he just radically took it away from me. And I'm not hyping it up. I'm just saying, one day I woke up, after giving my life to the Lord, and I don't even remember how soon was it after I gave my life to the Lord. All I do remember is one day I woke up and I'm just like, I don't feel like doing this.
Wow.
And I didn't do it, and I haven't to this day. I've been sober, and a lot of time I don't get to tell this story, because usually I'm telling it to a bunch of or in the past I've told it to a bunch of addicts, and addicts tend to struggle with drugs like in a lifelong type of way. You know what I mean?
Right. Like it's always going to be something in the backdrop that they're just not trying to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then for me, it just went away. You know, and I mean, you know, and the only thing I can say is, you know, God is good, and you know, maybe I found you know, ministry as an alternative, because I've come into ministry. I don't feel like I found ministry. I feel like ministry found me, because I really, you know, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about anything. I just was this guy that was in pain, that was trying to get off drugs and trying to get his life together. And all of a sudden it signed up for Jesus. And then I had people telling me 8 months later that I'm called to be a pastor or a minister or whatever. And I had no clue. I had no clue. Was
that those people? Was that part of that same church that you found the Lord in, or did you? Okay, so in that church now you've got people that are like seeing an anointing on your life and like calling it out.
Wow. Yep. It was the same. 8 months I was there. I got saved. You know, gave my life to the Lord. 8 months later, they came to me. They said, the pastor came to me and he said, you know, I want you to be a deacon in this church. I said, whatever. What is that? You know, but at the time I was just like, hey, whatever you want me to do. I really felt like, for the first time, I felt like, you know, man, I'm really digging something. I'm really digging this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was something wholesome about it, you know? And so I was like, hey, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And people come in, they were calling me, you know, I was a deacon, then I was Rev, then I was, you know, and this is long before my ministry tenure. I mean, you know, so when I say ministry found me, it really found me. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't know to look for it.
Right. You know, didn't know what it was to look for.
Right. And the funny thing is, how I really got on a formal track of ministry is that same church that I got saved in, and that people were calling out this calling on my life. I had ran into some disagreements with some of the ways that they were handling some finances or something. And for that, I felt like, well, I need to really consider taking my family and going to another place. And so at the time, I wasn't really ready to make that move, but I was what you would call dibbling and dabbling, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna find this place. We're going to sneak over to it, and then we're going to come back. Yeah. We're going to assess what we thought about it, whatever. And before we ever make any formal transitions. Sure. So that's what I did. And the place that I found, it actually was a ministry institute that was offering a class on deliverance. And specifically, I don't remember exactly what the teachings were, but all I know is that it appealed to me, and I'm like, man, this be cool to go and, you know, learn about some deliverance. And, you know, at that time, I'm just hungry. Whatever this is,
I'll take it all. What you got?
I'll take it all. Whatever you got. I land in this class, and this class is actually a formal minister's training class. So it's like an on-ramp to be a licensed minister of the gospel. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I'm not a pastor. I'm not going to be a pastor. That's not who I believe God has, you know, created me to be. This is me at the time. I just, you know, I don't like people. You know what I mean? Like,
He had me rolling.
but whatever. I'll go through if you want to say I'm on a path to be a licensed minister, that's fine. I just need these classes. That's what I need for my own, personal development and so forth. And that's one thing led to the next, man. I graduated that and landed in seminary the next year, and man, the rest is history. And then I started a couple of small groups that turned into churches. Then I started some churches that led to more churches being started, and now we have a ministry institute where we have a few things going on, cohort, and we're starting a credentialing track where we're going to ordain some ministers in the next year and a half. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see all that God is using me for.
Amen.
In comparison to the things that we were just talking about, like, my story of getting free, and like, I literally felt like, man, the day I gave my life to the Lord, I really felt like, man, the devil was like literally trying to kill me that day. I was gonna die. I mean, I was gonna die no matter what. I can't even believe I'm sitting here telling this story like right now, and like it's kind of crazy. It feels a little bit surreal, right? Because I can remember the pain, and the truth is that all that pain hasn't really gone away. I would be lying if I said that all the pain has gone away, because it hasn't. And I think we're intended to carry some of the pain, at least on this side of eternity, right? Because the Bible is clear. Eschatologically, it says that God is going to dry every eye, wipe every tear, dry every eye. There will be no more crying and sorrow and grief, and there will be no more of that in the age to come. Right. I may not experience that on this side of eternity, but I know that it's still a promise for me. It's still something that God has promised for all the pain to go away. It's gonna go away. I mean, sometimes, because catch this. I think this is really, really important, and it might help somebody. I think, when we find Jesus, right? I think we come and there's a lot of misconceptions. Like,
as soon as I find Jesus, all my problems are going to be solved.
Yeah. Like he's some lamp and a genie. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like Jesus, I'm gonna give you 3 wishes. Or whatever. But yeah, it's like you think that, and no, in all reality, it's like your problems just got worse, buddy. You know what I mean?
Now you've got a big target on your back.
Absolutely. Now, because when we were living for the world, or we were living for Satan, Satan didn't have, he didn't have no bone to pick with us. He he look at us, he give us the,
keep doing what you're doing.
Keep on doing what you're doing, But when you start living for Jesus, then you get his attention. You know what I mean? And especially when you talk about wanting to do something for him, not just live for him and be a child of God, but now I want to extend the kingdom of God, and I want to start some micro churches. I want to plant some churches. I want to help some people get ordained and released into the gospel ministry, man. I'm telling you, like, that puts the spotlight on you for Satan.
Yeah.
And it gets really, really difficult continuing to search out what real freedom is when you got some of that, some of those things that Satan is using to tug back at you. And some of those things that he uses, to tug back at you is actually unique to you.
Right. Oh, yeah. He knows. He knows. He knows enough to know exactly the buttons to push and try to pull you back and
Right.
I remember. I don't know if I've ever even. Here's where I felt like maybe I'm sharing publicly. So connected to some of the stuff that you were saying. My struggle with drugs wasn't. I mean, it was a psychological addiction to marijuana, and it was just my coping mechanism. That was where I went. That was my peace before Jesus. And I remember after I got saved, it was in the summer, and the guy who got me into smoking weed all the time was somebody who I was relatively close with, and even before I was smoking weed with him. And so I remember I was trying to close the door on all of those relationships, and I was like, no, like I need to move into a whole new circle. And then shortly thereafter, like I'm talking like in a matter of weeks, I felt like, but I want to reach these people, these friends of mine. They're like, I don't want to just like leave them behind. So I was like trying to walk this line, and it was too soon for me because I remember I went down to celebrate his birthday. This was like maybe a month after I got saved, and
Definitely too soon.
that was a bad idea. It was he and I, and just in his apartment in the city, in Chicago, on the north side. And he's like, "Hey, you want to smoke?" And I was like, "Nope, not doing that." And I felt good. I was like, "I'm strong. Nope, I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it." And then he goes, "Well, I got these pot brownies. You can have one of these." And he's like, "It's not smoking." And no joke, I'm sitting here. Here's what's going on in my head. Well, I never had pot brownies before. I was always curious, and it's not smoking. Like I'm already making the justifications for why this would work, and
Right.
and like, and I knew it right after I did it. That was literally the enemy knowing just what it would take to get me to like
Right.
twist my commitment there, and
Right.
then that was the last time I'd ever gotten high. Was after that because I felt immediately afterwards like, yep. So you just took the bait. So I
Yeah.
get it. I get that the enemy knows the ways to uniquely get at us.
Yeah, absolutely. All day long. And there's this saying, he don't change his tricks. Same old trick, same old, I mean, he looks at us and he throws us, he knows us in ways that I don't know that, we think about often. I mean, we know that we're known by God, but how much do we hear that we're also known by the devil?
And like when you put that reality that you just said
Yeah.
in the context of like the devil is prowling around like a roaring lion, like he's just like just waiting for you to step into the spot where he can do this or to take this bait, and like it's a sobering thought to be thinking about how much he actually is aware of you.
Right. It really is sobering. It really is a very sobering thought because this thought just came to my mind. Satan, he's been defeated, obviously, right? That's the obvious truth, but he is the prince of the air. The Bible says he's the most cunning, and I just really feel like if he's been defeated for all eternity, and he has, how is it that he just gets to wreak so much havoc amongst the people of God. And this thought just came to my mind. That he can't, he, the way he wreaks havoc on the people of God is by the people of God raising havoc on the people of God. You know what I mean? In other words, what I'm saying is, he know, like we were just saying, he knows us. So a lot of the time that he gets us, we put ourselves in position for him to, for, you know, like, let's say smoke, like you were just saying, using drugs, right? So God doesn't take your free will or your free choice away from you, right? And so if you want to continue to use drugs, you can continue to use drugs. Now Satan is only, you know, there like a cheerleader. You know what I mean? He's not giving you the drugs.
Right.
He's not, and Satan's not taking your choice away from you either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you think about it, you're making the choice. You know what I mean? And I mean, think about this. We're talking about duality, right? Good and evil, God and Satan, right? If God is not taking away your choice, Satan's not taking away your choice either. And by you choosing to, let's say, put the drugs down and leave the drugs alone, that's taking a step towards God. And then his word says that he's going to take 100 towards you, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with Satan, right? You
Yeah.
you say, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna do the drugs," and you know, you take a step towards Satan. He take 100 back.
He's like, all right, come on, let's go.
That's right.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yes, that was such a good interview.
You guys, the full interview is going to be available at freedomstorymedia.com, and there you'll have a link to the YouTube coming up later this week. Jariel, there's so much in there to unpack, and so much more to come in the other half of that interview as well. What were some of your first initial thoughts before I've got like a list? I was taking notes again.
Well, overall, I just loved his freedom story and how he says, you know, we're still all walking towards freedom. Because I think there is a misconception, like I'm saved, I'm good, and
right.
You know, and then it's like, oh, that stuff is still happening to me.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, I still have to choose to do the right thing. Yeah, and so, and then also, what I just love, like how, you know, sometimes when you hear the like title bishop, pastor, reverend, whatever it is, and you see people and they have this like, you don't realize like they all have a backstory,
right?
And his backstory is just like, you know, suicide attempt, drugs, and I just think like his testimony is just good for people who just like think like there is no way I can live my life for the Lord. And it's like, yes, you can. And like you said, that pain and all that trauma, you know, it all doesn't leave you. You just have to learn to live with it as you walk with the Lord. Amen. And I just thought that was really good. And yeah.
So good. He said, when he said the piece about, I think to a degree, we're supposed to carry the pain. Mm-hmm. Like that actually resonated with me a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that as to be biblically sound in the fact that we're always going to experience pain. I think he alluded to that, you know, on this side of eternity. But there was even something that was shared at the microchurch conference. And I didn't connect with this so much when I was talking in the interview with him. But well, actually, I think that was also because that was before the conference. But something was shared at the microchurch conference where the guy was I think it was Brian Sanders, and he gave an illustration about having a conversation with one of his grandchildren. I think he said about superheroes and superpowers, and like, what would your superpower? If you could pick any superpower, what would it be? And then the kid didn't know, and then he said, you know, what if you had the superpower of not being able to feel any pain?
Mm.
And the kid like thought about it and was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. And he was like surprised by that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, wouldn't it be great to never feel any pain?
Yeah.
And then I think he said the kid said something to the effect of like, but then I wouldn't feel anything. Like I would like, and it's like
Oh.
the pain itself is
Yeah.
like such a unique marker of being human,
Exactly.
you know? And it's like without that pain, like, do we even understand what it means to be human? Do we even have the potential to truly be able to embrace and grab a hold of joy and love? Like, because those are only significant because we know what pain
Exactly.
is. We know the
Exactly.
opposite of joy. We know all of that, and we know it
Yeah.
to a heavy level. And I think one thing that, especially if you go through life in a sheltered way, eventually you'll discover this, that the pain is part of what allows you to be able to understand and connect with people to another level. There's
Oh, yeah.
empathy. There's empathy that you have
Yes.
that you only have because you walked through some stuff painfully. Like,
Yes.
and that's one of the things that I love about Jesus, because God knows this. He knew this,
Mhm.
and he demonstrated it because Jesus came down
Yeah.
and experienced pain, was able to actually God was able to actually empathize with
Yes.
humanity.
Yes.
And like that makes God a whole nother level of not only just sovereign and superior, but
Mhm.
relatable and intimate, where he can
Yeah.
understand a bit about us. I didn't mean to go,
No, that's good.
but that's where my mind was going right now as he was saying that, like, yeah, we do need that pain. I even just think about like the greatest pains in my life, like the loss of my little brother when he died, like that pain.
Yeah.
Um, I cherish it now. Like
Yeah.
it's gotten to a place now where I'm like, I'm grateful that I don't lose that pain. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like a piece of him
Yeah.
that I get to have and hold, And when I'm engaging with people who are experiencing serious loss, like I'm not just throwing random Bible verses at them because I know this is what the word says. But
Exactly.
it's like, yeah,
You could be with them in that pain.
yep.
Yeah.
I've been there. And in some ways I'm still there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Mm.
that was that was real good stuff. He also said a couple other things that got me thinking. Well, his freedom story does he even spoke to this, does give us a great another example of healthy ways to share Jesus with people in our sphere. And
Yeah.
I love that it wasn't a story of his friend like harping at him about Jesus and
Yeah.
just constantly inviting him to church. And I'm not saying there's something bad about inviting people to church, but
Yeah.
like if that's the core of your evangelism is a church
Mhm.
invite or Bible verses, or I'm just going to keep telling you about Jesus,
Yeah.
you're missing the opportunities to just bless people into the kingdom.
Mhm. Mhm.
He was the friend who was like, hey, I'll inconvenience myself because I want to demonstrate love to you. Yeah, I
Exactly.
can do that.
Exactly.
And he didn't. So, because I think there's the opposite version of it, where there's
Mhm.
the people who are like Bible thumping, da, 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 Jesus, 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 24/7. Then there's the other version who like it's I'm only gonna bless you, but then they actually like hide away their faith,
Yeah.
and
Like,
it's like it's not even a part of who they are anymore. It's like how
yeah.
can I help? But like he did both,
Yeah.
like I'm blessing you, and yo, my car, I'm DJing. You're listening
Exactly.
to my gospel music. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
then the moment happened where the Lord opened the door and
Yeah.
he was not afraid to step in and say, hey,
Yeah.
I know what you need.
And I like that because it is, you always want to pray for that moment for the door to open and then you just be able to walk in.
Yep.
And I think in that times that, like he said, there's an appointed time. And I think obviously the Lord knows that
Yep.
and he can bring those two together.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
your time to, open the door and it's your time to walk through it. And that was such a good story.
And you know what? It's so I was talking earlier today with Pastor Carter about timing, and I think even outside of just talking about salvation stories and people getting closer to the Lord, like God is sovereign over everything. And
Everything.
there's a timing for all the
Hmm.
things, and all the things that we are trying to make happen, all the things that we are praying for and we are desiring for in our life. If
Yeah.
they are to be,
Yeah.
there's a time
Yeah.
that they're going to be. And it's not for us to like shoehorn something in and just try to make it happen. And
Yeah.
then we get so surprised that we get burned out, and we have nervous breakdowns, and people fall into all sorts of ridiculous sin. And that's because you're operating outside of God's timing.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make things happen and move and push and grind. And I'm speaking to me right now. I'm putting this on wax so I can play this back when I get out of God's timing
Yeah.
towards
Yeah.
all the things and all the godly even ambitions
Yeah.
that I have, you know. So
Hmm.
I love that God operates with doors and windows, and He's opening and closing, and it's for us to just simply continue to walk with Him. And when He opens them, to move on in. But like
Yeah.
it's not for us to be like forcing things open and like
Yeah.
I can just find the right way to pick this lock. I can get in that door. I mean, that my whole conversation about the micro church stuff. That's God opening up doors.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I have no like. There's no way I could have been prying those open. You know,
Yeah.
it's all in His timing and according to the way that He desires it to be. So, yeah. You
Yeah.
got me stirred up. Like
Yeah.
you got me
Yeah.
stirred up. Sometimes I
That
get
was
stirred up.
level 10 interview. I really loved it. I'm like, wow, I can't wait to watch the entire thing.
Yeah, it's really good. And that story about, me diving back into sin with the pot brownies,
Yeah.
um, that was such a marker for me in my story, because I
Hmm.
even remember prior to that, part of the journey that I forget about before the Lord really grabbed a hold of me. I wasn't anti-God.
Yeah.
Like I had a church background, but I was
Yeah.
living like I was ultimately my own God though, and I didn't really realize that's what I was doing. But I knew of God, and like, you know, if someone had said let's pray for dinner, I wouldn't have been opposed to it.
Yeah.
And I remember I felt like it must have been God, because the devil wouldn't give me this. But there was a sentence that like I remember writing down and having it on the visor in my car, that was part of the process of me, like of the Lord preparing the way for salvation. And it was, the devil in me makes justifications. And
Mm.
not that like the devil was necessarily residing in me, but like you know that there's the voices, right? There's the
Yeah.
voice of the enemy, and there's the voice of God, and they're trying to call you in their ways. And I was thinking of that as Tim was sharing. And when I find myself in a situation where like I'm starting to, like those pot brownies, where I'm starting to like spell out a justification for
Yeah.
why this is okay,
Yeah.
that's a sign. Like
Yeah.
that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because if I'm walking according to, living according to the things that God has ordained, the things that are a blessing and not a curse,
Hmm.
like even if there are people that are opposed, there's no desire for me to have to explain why this is what I'm doing. Like no, this
Exactly.
is what God said. Like this, and I'm doing what's right. The time we start explaining is when we operating in that gray, and we're
Hmm.
trying to make it make sense, and like
Yeah. Like if
so
I,
we can feel better about it.
yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
so that was actually instrumental in my early years of like discerning the way. And it was
Yeah.
like, do I feel like I need to explain why this is okay?
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing with those pop brownies. And that's what I try to think about that now. It's like, am I making justifications for my actions right now? And I find myself
Exactly.
doing that too many times in conversations with Larissa. Well, what had happened was,
Exactly.
okay, you can just shut
Like,
that down right now.
yeah.
Go ahead and repent and go the other way.
And I think when we first get saved, we're like hypersensitive to those types of things.
Yep.
And as we get further along, Yeah, you kind of forget to be on your guard about those things. And like I love the explanation of just like how the Lord knows you, the enemy knows you too. And
Mhm.
I tend to forget that. It's like, oh yeah, yeah. And as he was talking, I was just thinking about something that happened recently, and I'm like, you know what? That was a setup. Like, oh, I know she's gonna love this.
Right. Yep.
And I had justifications. I was starting to get worked up, and I backed off of the thing. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I backed off because I
Yeah.
think that was a setup.
For real. For real.
Yeah.
The enemy is literally out there, and like all he can really do is bait us.
Mm-hmm.
And like we don't. And there's once again there's I think this spectrum of understanding of the devil at work, where you've got the people who like everything's the devil. And
Yep.
the devil did it, and da 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 da. And then you have the people that actually forget the devil is real
Yeah.
and out there to try to take us out.
Yeah.
The reality is the devil's definitely at work, but
Mhm.
all he can do is bait us
Yep.
and like make these suggestions and whisper it in.
Mhm.
He didn't shove the apple in Eve's mouth. He
Yeah.
didn't force it down Adam's throat. He just said, well,
What if?
and he's convincing about these justifications. Did he
Yeah.
really say,
I
like,
mean, yeah.
like,
I mean, he
like,
did.
did
That
he really say that you can't
exactly.
have weed, or was it just smoking?
Exactly.
Like,
I'm not sure you heard correctly.
right. But so then that's where it's up to the people of God to actually
Yeah.
in those moments to have the spiritual discernment enough to
Mhm.
recognize the voice of the devil and the voice of the enemy, and to recognize the walk that God's actually called us to, and to do the hard thing, make the hard choice in those moments, and walk worthy of the calling.
Yeah.
That's why we need to be praying for one another,
Yes.
because anybody can easily fall, because when we are in different seasons of life, we can be weak
Yep.
when we're having hard times. Like that's when we're just more susceptible. When people go through transitions, when you
Mhm.
guys, whoever's watching this right now, this might be for somebody. If you got friends and family that desire to follow Jesus, and they're moving, they're losing their job, going through some sort of life transition, you better elevate your prayer life for them and your intentionality in their life, because you better believe that the enemy is elevating his strategy for them, because
Yeah.
he knows those are those places where people are off of their guard because they're not in their normal flow. They're not, comfortable and stable
Yeah.
in things. So it's easy right then to pull people into to sin. So yeah, we just need to be praying for one another.
Yes, for sure.
So yeah.
Yes.
And we don't normally do this, and we're about to close, but I want to pray for y'all today.
Ooh,
I
yes.
feel like we should close in prayer. And then I'll do my normal exit spiel. Let's go ahead and pray right now, you guys.
All righty.
Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for you. We're grateful for the word of the Lord that came through Brother Tim, and the conversation that you're leading us into right now. And I just believe right now that this call to prayer is something that you desire for not only us in this time, but for all of your people. So Lord, I pray for all those watching, and for the spheres of influence of each person watching, that everyone would be continually called into that place of prayer, knowing that there are some things that can only happen as a result of prayer, knowing that the enemy is constantly on the prowl looking to devour us. And Lord, I pray that we would be strengthened in our spirit to show up for that battle, not something that we can win and wage on our own, but the battle that can be won in the spirit, Lord. And I just pray that you would be strengthening your people right now, even as I pray. And I just pray that the rest of this weekend, and whenever somebody's watching this, would be filled with your presence to a level that they're not even used to, Lord. I pray that it would be an uncomfortable amount of your reality walking with them, Lord God. We thank you that you give us the opportunity to be doing life together, to minister together, and enjoying one another. And we just ask that you would watch over us and keep us until we are able to meet again. It's in Jesus Christ's mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you guys. Well, I hope today has been a blessing for y'all. If you're somebody who has been enjoying any of this content, please do go ahead and like and subscribe the video. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to share it and leave us comments. Let us know your engagement and interactions with any of the content we shared here today. And if you really feel called to and you're like, man, I love what they're doing here with Freedom Story Media. We're going to be continuing to work on documentary projects. We've talked about it before, but we're doing a documentary on the Mosaic House Ministries as they're getting ready to launch this hub. And that launch is coming up over the summer. And we still are seeking funds to be able to pay for all of the tools and things that we need in order to make this happen. And you can be a part of helping support that. If you go over to the Patreon, you can find that at storiesfromtheedges.com as well as on freedomstorymedia.com. And actually, I think there'll even be a link in the description for that as well. And you can be a part of the journey. But having said all of that, we, as always, appreciate you guys being here with us, and hope you all had a good time. Any final thoughts, Jariel?
No, I thought today's show was just a really good one. Good, really, really good one. And I like ending in prayer.
Yeah, we should make that a thing from now on. So let's just do that. Make sure that we still walk out this Christian thing. Right?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, having said that, on behalf of Freedom Story Media, the Unshackled Network, and Jariel and myself, have a great day, and we'll see y'all next time on Fury and Friends.
Yeah, bye.